Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm recording this on September 24th. So I'm going to go over what's been going on in the Middle East and give you my perspective on it. There is definitely a ramp up. The UN activity in New York, you can see a lot of activity going on in the city. Different restaurants are full. There are different conferences. There were even conferences at the Harvard Club that were tied to the UN. Today is actually a climate conference in some areas of the city. So a lot of activity is happening. One of the screens has Al Jazeera playing live what's going on at the UN. I believe it's I'm not sure who's speaking, but he's talking about the problems that are going on in Lebanon, I think. Oh no, wait, it looks like he's talking about climate change actually. But either way, I'm running the live of Al Jazeera to see if there's anything breaking that takes place. We're gonna go to BBC. This was published 2 hours ago about what's going on in the Middle East. But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the products that I offer and also help to donate. It's through your donations and through the products that you purchase that allows me to do the things that I do. I have lots of videos, thousands of videos for free to help to navigate you through financial turmoil, help to navigate you through what's going on geopolitically, and how to improve your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of all my videos. Click the link, and if you could, please donate. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. Donate on the homepage at the very bottom. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel. That way you can help support my work, and I can have these videos for free for people to understand my perspective on these tumultuous times and how for you to navigate through it. The membership tier at the for Patreon, that membership tier, the higher tier level can get access to some of my medical lectures on immunology and pulmonology. So you learn a little bit about medicine. So you can also sign up for those classes on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and watch videos and download PDFs on pulmonology and immunology for only $50 for each module. So you get a lot of material for only $50. You get a unique password, log into the area that I've stored the data, and you can watch at your leisure, the videos, and download the PDFs and learn about pulmonology and immunology, which is really important. All right. By being more informed, you will improve the power imbalance between you and your physician. All right. The more power you have when you go in and talk to your doctor, the better care you're going to have. In addition, by understanding how your body works, you're going to be able to navigate your body through some issues and find ways to help mitigate some of the problems that you have. So with that, knowledge is power. So please go to the store, sign up for those classes. Please help to donate, help support my work. It's really important. With that said, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver liquid. This is important. You should take it every day. Take a teaspoon of it a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle, swallow. What it does is it neutralizes pathogens and maintains a mucosal barrier to reduce the chances of getting a cold or an infection. All right. Take this every day. I have it also in a max 35 or max 14. Right. So the max 35 is 35 ppms. This also is 35 ppms, just different brand. And max 14 is 14 ppms. Take a teaspoon a day, If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or 2 a day. I've been taking it for 4 years, so it's great. It's a great product, especially during the cold season. It's really important. I have an applicator set that you can purchase. You just put the liquid into the applicator, and you can carry it in your bag. I have a spritzer, a dropper, and a nasal spray. So the applicator set to help you carry it around to school or to work or wherever. Because we're in the cold season, it's important to get the lozenges and the drops. I have Manuka honey lozenges. Get a couple bags of these. Be prepared. All right. The lozenges are larger than the drops. There's 21 count for this bag. The moment you have an irritation in your throat, you want to take a lot lozenges and drops. And what you're going to do, because this is made from structural nanosilver, it's going to neutralize the pathogen, and you're going to create these secretions to maintain the mucosal barrier in your epithelial lining, in your mouth, in the back of your throat. All right. When you maintain that barrier, you're improving your immune system. You're reducing the chances of getting infection. So you're neutralizing the pathogen and maintaining the barrier, the natural barrier. All right. So the moment you have an irritation, start taking the lozenges. Really important to neutralize that irritant before you get a further infection. Because if you catch it early, you heal early. I also have drops. I have cherry drops in 100 count, blueberry drops in 100 count, and also honey and lemon in 100 count. Get a couple bags of the drops and the lozenges. All right, just get a couple bags and be prepared, because we're in the cold season in the United States, and the cold season is going to be problematic because of RSV and influenza and SARS-CoV-2 and maybe monkeypox, so, there's going to be a lot of different, or mpox, I should say, because they changed the name. But the thing is that the whole idea is that our cold season is going to be problematic because our immune systems are down. We don't want further infection. We need to heal. Our bodies need to heal and stay pathogen free for about 5 years. All right. Where we're not getting colds, annually. And if you do that, you're going to actually have a pretty robust immune system, because it'll be healing. Right. So please go to the store and get the structural nanosilver lozenges and drops. Really important to catch it early. The moment you have that irritation, take the lozenges and the drops. I have structural nanosilver toothpaste. All right. This has no fluoride in it. It whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, neutralizes pathogens, reduces gum inflammation. When we get older, our gums want to recede because, we have that inflammation as we get older at our gum line. And you can improve that gum line by taking a product like this and reducing that inflammation and neutralizing those pathogens. In addition to the structural nanosilver neutralizing the pathogens and improving your oral hygiene, when you have a very high level toothpaste, which this is, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular problems and valvular problems. All right. A lot of people don't realize that poor oral hygiene can cause cardiovascular events and cause cardiovascular inflammation and disease, and also valvular disease. How? Some of that plaque, some of the tartar in your at the microscopic level can get into your bloodstream, because most people that have bad oral hygiene, they may get slight bleeding gums, from, let's say, flossing or whatever. Some of that plaque or tartar can get into your bloodstream and cause problems. Plus, that irritation leads to an inflammation cascade that may set off in your vascular system plaque buildup. All right. And I've done a video on this about how plaque builds up in your arteries. So you want to reduce inflammation in your bloodstream. You want to reduce cardiovascular inflammation. In addition, bacteria can get into the bloodstream if you have bad oral hygiene, and that bacteria could vegetate onto your valves, and you over time could get valvular disease. As we get older, we also have calcium deposit that happens on our valves. So if the valves are slightly perturbed, slightly damaged, or slightly inflamed, there can be calcium deposits or some sort of bacterial vegetation that takes place, and then that valve starts to have problems. It could prolapse. There's regurgitation. There's stenosis. There's this the hardening of the valve where it's just not pumping properly. It can be a problem, and it slowly builds up over time when you get older, especially with this calcium depositing on the valve. So you want to maintain good oral hygiene and keep the inflammation in your vascular system lower to reduce the cardiovascular disease and to reduce the valvular disease. One of the vectors to do this is to take a toothpaste like this, because it neutralizes pathogens and it reduces that inflammatory response that I'm talking about. All right. You take some of the other types of toothpaste, especially the ones that have the fluoride in it, and you're causing disruption in your body and inflammation in your body. So, good oral hygiene is good for your teeth, but it's also good for your cardiovascular system and your valvular and your valves for your heart. It's really important to understand this, right? And as we get older, a lot of people's oral hygiene starts to go down and their cardiovascular disease starts to go up. It's not the only reason why cardiovascular disease happens, but you want to keep that bacteria and that plaque out of your bloodstream. Well, how do you do that? You reduce the gum inflammation. You take toothpaste that will neutralize pathogens and reduce that tartar and that plaque buildup, and you'll have good oral hygiene and have a lower chance of developing cardiovascular disease and valvular disease due to bad oral hygiene. Okay, so please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this toothpaste. It has no fluoride in it. It's the best toothpaste that you're going to get. Get a few tubes of this. I take this every day. All right. So please go to my store and get the toothpaste. It's way better than anything else that you can purchase out there. Structural nano silver gel, dual purpose product. It helps your skin. So it's like a skincare product, but it's also neutralizing pathogens and causes a barrier. All right. So it's made from structural nano silver. You can, as a skincare, you can put it on your skin every day, and you'll notice that your skin is clearer, all right, and tighter. A great way to do this is to put it on your skin before you go to bed, and then exfoliate in the morning as a daily skincare. What you can also do is, if you have a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn, you can put the gel on that cut, abrasion, or minor burn, and it'll heal quicker. Why? Because it's keeping it moist, right? And it's keeping it clean. It's creating a barrier and keeping it clean. All right. It'll heal about a third quicker. All right. With the structural nano silver gel, it'll also help to neutralize pathogens. So you can put it around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, around your ears, put it on your hands, right? Put it on surfaces of your body where you're worried about contracting something. It's creating a barrier because it's a gel. It doesn't evaporate. It's way better than Perel, because Perel evaporates and it's alcohol based. So Perel evaporates and cracks your skin. This doesn't evaporate. This keeps your skin healing. It keeps your skin moist, and it keeps this. It has that little barrier on the skin, so it's healing the skin. Perel doesn't heal your skin, and this neutralizes pathogens over a 5-hour period. So it stays active for over 5 hours. Perel doesn't stay active for over 5. Perel stays active for maybe 30 seconds. So it's important to use this, especially during the cold season. Put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, around your nose. Lightly coat your nostrils, right? You just put a little bit of gel on your fingers and lightly coat your nostrils. And that way you are trying to protect yourself from contracting something. You're creating a barrier. And if it's being exposed to something, it's going to neutralize it. All right. So use this during the cold season. Use it as an everyday skincare product, and use it when you need, if you're cut or you have a minor burn or an abrasion, it'll help to heal it. So it's a dual purpose product. And I really believe in providing to my audience dual purpose products, because when you buy something, you want to be able to use it for multiple reasons. So it brings down the perceived cost of the product, because you can use it for multiple reasons. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gel. It's a very high quality product. So with that said, let's begin with BBC, talking about the latest events that took place last night.
The powerful Lebanese militant group Hezbollah says it's attacked military targets in a series of rocket salvos into northern Israel, following Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon on Monday, which Lebanon now says killed 558 people. That includes 50 children. The Israeli military says dozens of rockets were launched from Lebanon, some of which were intercepted by air defenses. There were sounds of sirens across northern Israel this morning, those distant booms you could hear in the Galilee region. Yesterday, the military saying 1 million people in and around the northern city of Haifa have taken refuge in shelters because of Hezbollah rockets. Overnight, we saw residents fleeing the Israeli bombardment in southern Lebanon. They are cramming the roads, they are busy, they are full of people trying to get away, trying to reach temporary shelters that are being set up in Beirut. The Israeli strikes made Monday the deadliest day in Lebanon in decades. The IDF saying it hit around 1,600 targets, which it described as Hezbollah cruise missiles, rockets, and drones. Now, Washington is sending a small number of additional troops to the region as the sense of crisis deepens. We have been hearing from the Biden administration. They say they will present concrete plans for ending the violence in Lebanon at the UN General Assembly this week. The EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, warned that the conflict was spiraling into a full-fledged war, and that is indeed the fear right now.
Now, remember what I said, that I have this feeling that September 24th is a moment where it's going to set in motion a series of events, all right, that I'm concerned. Now, I said this a few months ago, and I said that I see blue with the date September 24th, 2024. It feels that it was tied to New York. It felt like it was radiological. It felt a deep concern. I had a deep concern with it. Definitely tied to the UN. But that was kind of like the only feeling I could get out of this. Right? This was about 4 months ago, right? And I talked about this on certain videos that are out there for free. All right. And I also said that I was concerned about August 24th because of the 322 date from October 7th all the way. If you count 322 days, it ends up being August 24th, 2024. All right. So, and August 24th, there was airstrike from Israel into Lebanon against Hezbollah. All right. And we're seeing this more activity in the northern front. The shofar will be blown on Rosh Hashanah this year. All right. I think it's October 3rd. Is it October 3rd or October 2nd? I'd have to look. So, but the shofar is going to be blown on 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, which couldn't happen last year because of it was on the Sabbath. All right, so you can't blow the shofar on the Sabbath. So some years you can't blow the shofar, and usually when that happens, it's like a curse year for the Jewish people. Well, that definitely happened this year. All right, but we're moving into a new year, and the shofar will be blown. That probably what will happen is that it will silence the great prosecutor. All right, and uh, and when that happens, the soul of Jacob is going to get a blessing, and Esau is going to get a curse. All right, we're moving out of a different era. We can't assume, this is really important what I'm going to say here. We can't assume that once Rosh Hashanah happens, that the trajectory of what was going on in the Middle East is going to be the same. It's probably going to be different, and it's going to probably, the balance of power is going to be on the side of Jacob, not Esau. All right. So you're starting to see this build up. Israel looks like it's going to be going into Lebanon. All right. They're doing strategic milestones to do a ground invasion. The United States is moving military personnel into the region. There's going to be more Houthi attacks on ships and even missile attacks by the Houthis. I wouldn't be surprised if Saudi Arabia gets involved. All right. But once Rosh Hashanah starts, there's a flip on the curse that was on Jacob during 2024, part of 2023 to 2024. There's going to be a flip with the blowing of that shofar for 2024 and 2025. And I think all hell is going to break loose. Now, we're going to look at this from a secular point of view. Now, I explained it from a Kabbalistic point of view. Now, if you look at it from a secular point of view, what it's going to mean is that Hezbollah is going to start to lose ground, and that this conflict is going to move closer and closer to Iran. I can't see for sure that Israel will go toe-to-toe to Iran directly in this year, but it's possible, especially if Iran is really so close to getting nuclear weapons. If that's the case, then Israel and the United States needs to take that capability out. And if they're that close, it's probably going to be taken out in 2024, 2025 year, right? The tail end of 2024 or into 2025. I've been saying for a long time, for over 4 years, that 2025 I'm really concerned about for world conflict, especially when it comes to Taiwan. Now, some of the military, especially the Navy, the US Navy, is kind of like pushing that back to maybe happening in 2027, not 2025. All right. But I still am very concerned about the 2025 event in Taiwan. And will we have a administration in the United States that backs Taiwan against China? Or will we put our tail between our legs and lose the hegemonic power of that region? And we just bail out of the island chains? I don't know. But if we are going to defend the island chains, then that means war with China. It's very simple. If we don't defend the island chains, China wins the hegemonic power of that Pacific region. And the United States has lost major shipping lanes. So I don't know how this is all going to pan out, especially with a potential Harris administration. So this is the navigation that I've been talking about for the audience, because if these things start to happen, it's going to perturb financial markets. These things are all interconnected, and we're going to be moving. We already deal with unconventional warfare, with chemical, radiological, biological, cyber, space. You know, we're dealing with a whole new type of era. So keep that in mind. Now, going back to 2024, September 2024, you know, it's definitely a problematic month, but this day, today, I'm concerned about. All right. Now, I thought that August 24th, you know, that I misinterpreted something, but the event, the airstrike happened near the end of the day, right? So, near, so what was telegraphed to the world was near the end of the day. So it's like anything can happen today. It doesn't necessarily mean that it happens in the morning. Doesn't necessarily mean it happens at night either. It could be in the middle of the day. But I just had this really weird feeling, and I've had this feeling for a few months about September 24, 2024. Now, it doesn't mean that it may not be a kinetic event. It might be a kinetic event in the Middle East. The president's speaking right now at the UN. This is his final address. It's the 79th session of the UN General Assembly. So, but it may not be a kinetic event. It may be actually a diplomatic event that turns sour. That it's something diplomatically that sets in motion a kinetic event for the end of the year or for 2025. I don't know, but I'm concerned about today. Something about today is not right. But it doesn't necessarily mean a kinetic event. It could be something on the surface is benign, but it's pernicious. All right. And if that pernicious event leads to a domino effect that moves in the direction of all these other things that I'm concerned about, especially with Asia. All right. To think that Asia and the Middle East aren't connected, they are. They 100% are. So just pay attention. Just pay attention. So, but we'll see. You know, I'm recording this at, you know, around 10 o'clock or so, past 10:20, and it's September 24th. And other than the missile fires and, you know, the back and forth between Hezbollah and Israel, that's what's going on in the international news. China is doing economically. China is trying to boost up their economy. All right. The equity market is, you know, hovering at 5,700 for S&P 500. I still have a 5,800 to 6,000 target for the S&P 500 by year end. And you know what's going on with the UN, but I feel something in the air. Something's not right about today. I don't know exactly what. Just like I didn't know exactly what was going to happen on August 24th, and it ended up being airstrikes from Israel. But something's not right. Now, we may not know exactly until a few days from now, especially if it's something pernicious, something political or some sort of international affairs pernicious agreement within the UN that it doesn't manifest itself until a few days later. But we'll be able to point to some event that took place diplomatically on September 24th, 2024. But something's not right about today. I don't know why, but I just have that weird feeling. I know it's not scientific, and, you know, I try to stay scientific, right? But sometimes you just have an intuitive feeling that something's not right, right? And today's one of those days. So, so with that said, let's continue with the BBC. But before we do that, I need a lot of energy to be able to do these awesome shows for PNN. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take NAD+. NAD+ helps to boost up your energy levels, helps to repair your DNA, because when our cells divide or when our cells go through stress, it causes DNA damage, and we have repair mechanisms. But as we get older, we build up more DNA damage than our body can repair. NAD+ helps to repair DNA. So NAD+ boosts up your energy levels. It helps to repair your DNA. And it's a neuroprotector. It helps to protect your neurons. It helps to provide healthier neurons. So as we get older, our neurons start to degenerate. Well, if you want to slow that degeneration down, you need to take NAD+. If you want to improve your DNA repair, you need to take NAD+. If you want some energy as you get older, you want NAD+. So please go to my store and take the NAD+. It's a new product that I have on my store. I've been taking NAD+ every day now. I added it to my protocol. It's a lesson learned from the anti-aging and the longevity gurus that have been doing this for a long time. And, you know, this is not fluff. It's not fluff. You can literally take blood serum samples, all right, and, you know, and check energy levels and test your muscle strength pre and post taking some of these products that I'm talking about, and you'll notice that your muscle tone is better, your BMI goes down, your blood glucose levels are controlled, inflammation, cytokine, pro-inflammatory cytokine profiles start to go down, cholesterol starts to go down, you know, a better lipid profile, you know, over time, blood pressure starts to go down, mental acuity starts to go up, you know, so, you know, you can test pre-protocol, anti-aging protocol, and while you're going through the protocol and look at these the data, the biomarkers, right? It's blood serum, strength, muscle tone, BMI, EKGs, ECGs, or, you know, ECG, EKG, you know, blood pressure, all these metrics. And then if you really want to get fancy, you know, you can actually take a methylation DNA test, pre and post, all right? So you take a methylation DNA test and you'll notice that your DNA is methylated in a certain way, and that is a gauge of how old you are, all right, at least through methylation. You can also take a test with how short are your telomeres in certain tissues, pre doing the protocol. And then a year after doing the protocol, you know, while you're doing the protocol, 1 year later, do the same test and you'll notice that your biomarkers are improved. This is how you prove what I am saying works. So when people say, well, this is all junk science about it, no, it's actually real science. And you can prove it for your own body. And the unique thing is that you can tweak it because your biochemistry is slightly different than my biochemistry. Everyone's biochemistry is different, slightly different for different reasons, right? But the point here is that when you test, what's your blood markers? What's your methylation markers? What's your telomere markers? What's going on with your vascular system? Do you have calcium deposits? What's your calcium score? What's your bone density? What's your kidney function? What's your liver function? These are all tests that can be done. What's your mental acuity? What's your eyesight? hearing. You can test these things, strength, pre and post. And you'll notice that in many cases, and many of these markers, they're going to improve when you follow this protocol. But you got to just do it, right? It's not a magic bullet. It's not something you just take one thing. It's about stacking, and it's about repeatability. You know, it's about the continuousness of this, because there's a compound effect that takes place. A little bit each day builds up, and you slow down the aging process, and your body heals. You can even test on how good your immune system is. You know, by taking a look at, you know, what's your CD4 counts and your CD8 counts and your white blood cell counts and all this, right? And how effective they are, right? So you can do these biomarkers from your and get them from your physician to be able to track yourself pre and all the way through, and you'll notice that you're improving. But not just that, you'll look in the mirror and you'll notice in a year that things are way, way better for you. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NED Plus. It improves your energy levels. It helps to repair DNA damage, especially when you get older. That happens a lot. And it helps with neurons, neural health. So, and that's important, especially when we get older. We need to protect our neurons the best that we can. Again, there's no magic bullet, but by taking supplements like NAD Plus and other things that you stack with it, you're going to slow down the aging process and improve your health.
We'll speak to our correspondents across the region, have full analysis for you on this developing story. So let's start there in both Lebanon and in Jerusalem with our correspondents Lena Sinjab in Beirut and Yolande now joining us from Jerusalem. Firstly, Yolande, reports in the past few minutes or so of further rocket attacks into northern Israel and reports from Hezbollah that military bases have been targeted. What are you hearing?
Yes, Hezbollah said that it hit military sites. We've not heard about that, but certainly Kiryat Shimona, which is a town very close to the Lebanon border, that has seen buildings damaged. There have been fires raging there after it was hit by rockets. People in the north of the country remain very much on edge. Of course, prior to this escalation, tens of thousands of people had been evacuated from their homes due to the cross-border fighting that's gone on since the October war started in Gaza. And we have really seen now that sort of area of Hezbollah rocket area being targeted has expanded further, reaching cities like Haifa in the north. Israeli strikes in the past few hours have hit inside southern Lebanon in the Bekaa Valley once again as well, both areas that are seen as being Hezbollah's strongholds. We've heard from the Israeli military. It says it's been hitting launch sites for rockets, weapons stores and command centers. Yesterday, it was something like 1,600 Hezbollah targets that the Israeli military said were hit at what it called the peak of its operation, this very intense aerial bombardment. And the assessment was from the Israeli military that tens of thousands of Hezbollah rockets had been put out of use.
Yolande, stay with us. Let's bring in Lena now. Lena, we've been watching a press briefing from the health ministry. 558 people is the new death toll that they've given for yesterday, the deadliest day in Lebanon since the end of the civil war in 1990. Can you give us a sense of how people are feeling in Beirut today?
There is a great sense of anger, but also of fear. People have been saying for the past year that they don't want to see Lebanon dragged into a full-fledged war. And what's happening and what happened over yesterday in south of Lebanon is just reminding people of the 2006 war, of the mass exodus.
So Israel is going after Hezbollah. Hezbollah is from the soul root of Esau. And there are three major soul roots that in this region that are really important to understand. Jacob's soul root, Esau's soul root, and Ishmael's soul root. In a very generic sense, Israel is Jacob's soul root. Saudi Arabia is Ishmael's soul root. Okay? Now, again, this is a generic broad brush. There's finer detail. It's always, devil's always in the details, right? But just in a generic sense, Jacob is Israel, soul root. Ishmael is Saudi Arabia's soul root. And Esau is these other regions, including even in the Western powers, because people and countries can have a mixture of the soul roots. There can be a little bit of Esau and a lot of Jacob and vice versa, which is what happens with the United States. While other nations may be much more Esau and a little bit of Jacob. So Iran is Esau. They're coming from Esau. Right? Now, now what is interesting about this, there is two types of Esau. Right now, we're just seeing the Esau. But Esau ends up fracturing. The soul root fractures and it repents. And through that repentance, Esau, what I'll call Esau positive versus Esau negative. So because it fractures. The Esau soul root becomes polarized. It fractures and becomes polarized. So there's a positive and a negative. The positive will align with Ishmael and Jacob. The negative will move away from Ishmael and Jacob, and the positive Esau. Okay, and this negative Esau, this is the soul root of the theocratic part of Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas. The people in general within these regions of Lebanon, even in Gaza or even Iran, the majority of the people, when this fracturing of Esau happens, which I think is starting to happen, but when this fracturing happens completely, the positive of the Esau positive soul root will align with Jacob and Ishmael and fight against Esau negative. Now, Esau negative is not just in the Middle East region. Esau negative is in other regions, including the United States. So what happens is that all the negative Esau, which has metastasized in the world, will be fighting against Ishmael, Esau positive, and Jacob. So Esau positive, Jacob, and Ishmael are going to band together to fight worldwide Esau negative. And that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see the buildup of this. What the people of Lebanon are being tested here is pick a side. You pick Esau negative and you're going to die. If you pick Esau positive, you will be blessed and live for a brighter future. Now that's a broad brush, but that's what Kabbalistically is happening with these soul roots. So you got to get out of this whole secular mindset, because you will not understand what's going on, unless you look at it from the viewpoint, this like 50,000 foot viewpoint of these soul roots. All right, how things are fracturing and realigning. If you don't think that Saudi Arabia isn't aligning with Israel, you're not paying attention. It is. And if you think that the United States is not aligning with Saudi Arabia and Israel, you're not paying attention. But the point here is that you're going to start seeing in the Middle East, these other countries, including Palestinians. All right, the Palestinians are going to fracture, and there's going to be an Esau negative and an Esau positive. And those Esau positives will benefit from a blessing. But there's going to be a lot of turmoil as this thing's fracturing. So what's going to happen is that Esau's going to be fighting Ishmael and Jacob, especially Jacob in this moment in time. But then there's going to be infighting within these countries. Lebanon is going to have a civil war. Syria is going to have a civil war. Iran's going to have a civil war. I wouldn't be surprised that even Egypt has a civil war. And there's going to be a fracturing that's taking place between Esau negative and Esau positive. Now, I'm really positive that nobody has said that to you. But that's what's starting to happen. So you're going to hear in the news, Israel is, causing a lot of collateral damage, and the citizens of Lebanon don't want this. They have to pick a side. They could easily say, Lebanon could easily say, Israel, Saudi Arabia, United States, help us to root out Hezbollah. And then a big blessing would come onto Lebanon. Just keep that in mind.
Running away for safety, thousands of civilians, of families have fled their cities and towns in southern Lebanon towards the north, and the people are packed and jammed in their cars looking for shelters, looking for houses, even reaching Beirut, where the government have allocated at least 5 schools to turn into shelter. The number of people that mostly civilians, everyone you talk to here in Beirut have a relative or a friend in southern Lebanon that was targeted or was displaced. It's chaos, it's fear, and it's also a huge sense of anger that they don't want to live this war. It's the start of the school year. People want to live normally. They want to send their kids to school. They want to have peaceful life, but they feel that there is a great sense of injustice as well with the inappropriate, indiscriminate attacks that Israel is conducting in Lebanon, saying it's targeting Hezbollah, but in fact, civilians are the ones who are targeted, and mainly areas condensed with civilians that are targeted.
Your team comes to work, gets started, and disappears into 100 apps, each with their own greedy little text boxes. Except Pam, because Pam uses Grammarly's AI to write in a few clicks, not a few hours. And it works for the whole enterprise. Welcome back, team.
All right, so that was BBC. I want to jump into the Al Jazeera here.
Hezbollah and Israel are exchanging heavy cross-border fire the day after the most.
But before I do that, I need to plug product, because this is PNN. This is PNN. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the powder probiotic. I take this every day. I mix it with my hummus. I take it in the afternoon, right? So you just mix it with your food or with water. It's a great product. I prefer to use the powder, but some people prefer to use the veggie caps. So it's really important to take a probiotic. Why? It helps to reset your gut biome. And with a good gut biome, you're going to reduce inflammation in your gut. By reducing inflammation in your gut, you're reducing chronic inflammation. And by reducing chronic inflammation, you're going to improve your immune system. You're going to improve your metabolism. And that irritation, that chronic irritation in your gut because of a poor diet and poor gut biome may cause cancer and may cause disruption in the lining of the gut and cause, other ailments like digestive pathogens could get into your bloodstream and get you sick, or get into your lymphatic system very easier. So, you don't want an inflamed gut, because an inflamed gut lowers the immune system. Cancers can start to arise and you can get sicker easier, right? A good gut biome is going to improve your metabolism. You're going to be able to absorb your energy better and more efficiently. Your stools will be more regular. You're going to be able to digest better. The whole bile pathway and breaking down foods are going to improve. the communication between your gut and your liver is going to improve, and the communication between your gut and your brain is going to improve. And that's important because mental health is related to gut biome. Skin health is related to gut health. Liver health is related to gut health. So a lot of things you can improve with your body by improving your gut. So please go to my store and take the probiotic in powder form, or you can get it in the veggie cap form. Take it every day to maintain a very good gut biome. This is one of the most important things that you can do to move yourself into the path of lowering that inflammation, improving your metabolism, improving that communication with your liver, because your liver is a major important organ. All right. And with that, you are improving your immune system, you're improving your skin, you're improving your mental clarity and your mood. Really important. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of disease starts in the gut. And by improving the health of your gut, you're improving the overall health of your body. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the powdered probiotic or the veggie cap probiotic. They're both very good. They both get your gut moving in the right direction. No pun intended. I'm not sure. Okay, so all right. That's instead of going to Al Jazeera, because now that it looks like this guy's from Jordan. I think he's Jordan. He's from Jordan. I'm not gonna listen to their speeches. Let's go to what's going on. Okay, this is Al Jazeera dealing with trading the firing back and forth between Israel and Hezbollah.
Intense Israeli bombardment in decades killed nearly 500 Lebanese citizens. At least 90 women and children are among the dead. Well, these are pictures from southern Lebanon filmed within the last hour. The Israeli military says it carried out hundreds of attacks on Monday. Most were in southern Lebanon, but soon expanded into the east. And this is the scene in Lebanon's Bekaa province to the east of the capital, Beirut. Multiple Israeli strikes have hit the area in the past few hours. Hospitals in southern Lebanon and even the capital, Beirut, are overwhelmed. More than 1,600 people have been injured in Monday's attacks. The health ministry has instructed staff to postpone non-emergency surgeries. Health facilities are already struggling to treat thousands of people injured when Israel detonated explosives in pages and walkie-talkies in coordinated attacks last week. Schools and other facilities are being used as temporary shelters. In response, Hezbollah has fired.
With ProCare, you can offer touchless payment options like ACH, mobile bill pay, or completely automated. We also offer next business day.
In response, Hezbollah has fired a barrage of rockets into northern Israel. The group says it's targeted military bases, airfields, and an explosives factory 60 kilometers from the border. Israel says the Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted most of the rockets. And here's the scope of those Israeli attacks. The operation expanded from southern Lebanon into the Bekaa Valley. For the second time in a week, the Israeli military targeted Beirut's southern suburb of Dahia. Zain Basrawi is standing by with the latest reaction from Israel. We will be live in a moment in Marjayun in southern Lebanon with Imran Khan. But first, let's go to Zaina Hoda. She is also in the south. She's in Sidon, Lebanon's third largest city. And Zaina, it has been so busy on that highway behind you for hours, perhaps since yesterday. Many people fleeing the south. They are coming to Sidon. What are you seeing and hearing? What are people telling you?
Well, we are along the main highway that links southern Lebanon to the Lebanese capital.
Noise. Actually doing something on a highway.
Traffic has eased somewhat. Yesterday there were traffic jams as thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not even
It's too much background noise on that. Way too much background noise. I mean, amazing. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find some. All right, I want to jump into Fox News. I'm talking about the Middle East war.
All right, Sandra, let's bring in Fox News contributor and former National Security Advisor Keith Kellogg. So, General, let's look at what happened over the past weeks. Israel blew up Hezbollah pagers. Then when they reached for their emergency radios, they blew those up too. If you want to try to wage an effective campaign, whether it's war or something less against your enemy, first thing you do is take down their comms. And then in addition, sow mistrust in everything that they have.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. You nailed it. That's exactly right. The last thing you do before you start a major campaign is you knock down their command and control and attack their key leaders. That's exactly what they did with their pager attack. All of those people.
And as they're moving towards a land assault, the people of Lebanon are being asked a question, a metaphysical question. Are you going to be Esau positive or Esau negative? They need to make their decision, because as this happens, major destruction is going to ensue. Right now, it doesn't matter what side you are on the fence here. This thing is starting to come ahead, and big global events are happening. All right, and it's fascinating to listen to some of the Kabbalistic rabbis that speak English. Some of them don't, but the ones that do speak English, how they're seeing this all, playing out, in biblical texts and world affairs, and there's a bigger thing happening here. All right, and I need to be able to sit down and really articulate it a little bit better. From the Kabbalistic side, from some of the things that they say, I'll think about how I want to say it. But let's not assume that everything that we're doing is really our own volition, and that there is a guided hand. You can call it, in terms of economics, it's the invisible hand. There's an emergent property that's taking place, but there is something there's an emergent property that's starting to emerge here. There's something that's emerging. There's an emergent property in this whole region that's going to affect the whole world. Now, I have this feeling that there is something to do with September 24th, 2024. Now, I don't know exactly why, but I have this really weird, intense, intuitive feeling, right? But I don't, it may not be a kinetic event. It may be something just below the surface and pernicious. But something is emerging. Something's emerging. So Israel's using battlefield tactics to prepare for a ground invasion. But during this period of time, Esau, the soul root of Esau, is going to fracture. And people have to pick a side. And when you pick the right side, you're going to be blessed. You pick the wrong side, and you probably are going to die. This is the way this is playing out. I mean, can you imagine? Just step back. Just imagine if the people of Lebanon said, "Get rid of Hezbollah. Help us, international community." Can you imagine if the Gazans said that about Hamas? The whole dynamic would be totally different internationally, and what Israel would have done. This is what I mean about the fracturing of Esau's soul. Now, Esau couldn't fracture because the shofar for last Rosh Hashanah couldn't be blown. So the strength of Esau was extremely powerful, while the soul root of Jacob was weakened. Now, with Rosh Hashanah coming up and the shofar will be blown, Jacob's soul root is much stronger, and Esau is on the verge of fracturing.
Forget what those pagers were, leaders of consequence, meaning some type of leadership within Hezbollah. Israel has moved past Gaza right now. They've actually shifted their focus to Hezbollah and to Lebanon right now. And you're going to start seeing that more and more with the air attacks, with the attacks on the pagers, the command and control. You're going to see this thing escalating. And you know,
this is a good graphic that Fox did. All right, so you got Israel and Galilee, right? And like I've been saying, that this conflict is going to bring the borders of Israel larger. All right, so there's this border, right? And it's involving Lebanon and Syria and Iraq. All right, so this conflict is going to reset the border system in this area.
To Biden just a minute ago, there's a huge difference between rhetoric and reality. He's just talking off a card. There's no de-escalation. The Israelis are clearly escalating this fight, and this is going to continue. And with Netanyahu going to the UN, if he's smart, he's going to blow them up. And what he's going to say is 20 years ago, the UN Security Council passed a resolution, 1701, that was supposed to solve this problem in Lebanon. Hezbollah was supposed to disarm. The guy who signed that agreement was Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah now, and they were supposed to move north of the Litani River. They never did it. And I think the Israelis now are committed to finishing that fight right now, whatever it's going to take for them to do it, to allow those 60,000 displaced civilians from Israel back into their living abodes.
Yeah, you saw the president reacting there with the president of the United Arab Emirates, but earlier he was asked about this. This was on Sunday as he was returning to the White House. Listen to what he said here.
Are you worried about rising tensions in the Middle East?
Yes, I am, but we're going to do everything we can to keep the wider war from breaking out. And we're still pushing hard.
All right, so he said that he's worried about it, but here's the thing for Israel. They've got some 60 to 100,000 people from the northern part of Israel who've been displaced for the better part of a year now, because Hezbollah started striking out October the 8th, I believe it was, the day after October the 7th. And Israel is saying, enough of this. We want our people to be able to go home. And to them, this is the only way of doing it.
Yeah, John, Israel does not trust the United States right now to be any type of peacemaker or interlocutor at all. They just disregarded what the United States are going to do. They're going to handle this on their own. And I think they're going to be able to do it now. You can really see that they've shifted away from Gaza with the preponderance of the military force. Look at the airstrikes and look at the map that the targets that they've hit. Look what they did to the command and control. Look at them taking out major infrastructure as well. They're really planning to go in really hard, and they're going to solve this. And I think Netanyahu's got it right. He has decided to take a plan, go forward with it, and actually eliminate, at least from the south of the Litani River, all Hezbollah positions to allow those people, and you mentioned between 60 and 100,000, to return to their homes. And I think he's making a real point. I don't think this thing is going to de-escalate at all. I think you're looking at an escalation, not only today and tomorrow, but in the coming weeks. This fight is far from finished.
All right, so Robert Charles is the former Assistant Secretary of State in the Bush 43 administration. Here's what he said on Fox and Friends about the resolve from the Biden administration to do something about this. Listen here.
This is the choice between deterrence and appeasement. And in the end, unfortunately, the Biden-Harris crowd has been very much about appeasement. I don't think there's any room for that anymore.
All right, so no room for appeasement anymore. Question to you, because you know him, you work for him. How does this situation unfold if Trump becomes president on November the 5th?
Well, first of all, we never would have been in this position, John, if President Trump had been there, because
doesn't matter. Just how's he going to solve the problem?
Leaders and tried to work something through it. But the biggest thing he would have done, he would have picked a side. He would have said, who's good, who's bad, whose side do we want to be on? And he would have gone on the side of Israel, and he would have used massive forces necessary to do it. This is historically what we've done before. Look, I'll go back to what President Nixon did in the Yom Kippur War, when he put every cargo airplane the United States had, filled it with armament, and sent it to Israel and said, we're going to let them finish this fight. That's what you have to do. You have to pick a side. Understand that the people backing Hezbollah are in fact the Iranians. So this is a fight between good and evil, and between Israel and Iran, and we need to support them. If we had done that earlier and we had said, nope, this is how we're going to go, they would have quieted down. John, this didn't happen in the 4 years President Trump was involved in the Middle East. It happened under Biden because what was said earlier is correct. They've actually they've let basically deterrence slide. That's because you have to have two parts of deterrence. One is capability of the troops, the manpower, whatever it takes to get there, but it also is will. And if you don't have the will, all the capability you have is zeroed out. And if you don't have the will, you don't have deterrence. President Trump had the will, and he showed that multiple times with Soleimani and with other people in the region as well, when he took them out and when he eliminated ISIS, and all those hard activities that he took for moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, when we were told that there's going to be another intifada. That never happened at all. This is just the way you have to handle that part of the world, with absolute strength.
All right, we'll see which way this heads in the days and weeks ahead. General, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brighteon Channel.
Comrade Kamala Harris doesn't have much to offer. She has no policies, no solutions. But the one thing her campaign has is money. They get it from a lot of people that you don't want to hear about. These are not the people that you agree with. A donation of just $10 from patriots like you will help us to fight and to win big. So only if you can afford it, can you please chip in today? Whatever you can do, whatever you can afford, with you on our side, we will make America great again. We'll make it greater than ever before.
Now,
yeah, I mean, I thought it was really.
You have Republicans aligning themselves with the whole MAGA movement, right? But you have Democrats that are against the MAGA movement. Harris is against the MAGA movement. Hillary Clinton is against the MAGA movement. Barack Obama is against the MAGA movement. Pelosi is against the MAGA movement. So they're basically saying they're against making America great again. Yeah, let that sit in. Let that set in. They don't want America to be great, based on definition. With that said, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and improve your immune system by taking lignans. It's a powder. You should be taking this every day. It boosts up your immune system, and it also helps with your hormonal health. It's for males and females. It's really important. With our daily bombardment of chemicals in the air, in the water, and in the foods that we eat, it disrupts our endocrine system and it disrupts our immune system. You need to improve your immune system and your endocrine system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take lignans. It's a powder. Mix it with your food or with water. Take it every day to improve your immune system. It's a very high quality product. Please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. We got terrorists all over the world. We got pagers blowing up. We have walkie-talkies blowing up. You don't know if we're going to start seeing wider terrorism in the Western world because of what is transpiring. And a lot of people can't sleep because of this, because they have all this anxiety. And sleep deprivation will make you age faster, all right? In addition, chronic sleep deprivation may increase dementia. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video, and get the Goodnight Formula. It has melatonin and tryptophan in it. This will allow you to sleep at night safely. You can be well rested. Now, when you wake up, you'll have roughly 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep, which is really important for consolidating memory, so your memory will improve. And you'll be detoxifying your body, because you need to be in deep sleep to be able to detoxify your body. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the Goodnight formula. Because there's many people out there that are spending all their time at like 3 o'clock in the morning watching QVC and buying jewelry, right? Because they can't sleep at night. Stop doing that. Go to my store and get the Goodnight formula so you can get that deep sleep and slow down the aging process and improve your memory and reduce the chances of age-related dementia. All right? It's very important. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight formula. Omega-3, very important to improve your cardiovascular health. How? Omega-3 brings down the LDL, which is bad cholesterol, and helps to raise the HDL, which is the good cholesterol. And omega-3 keeps your red blood cells from sticking too much. That means less clotting. All right? If you're worried about clotting, you should be getting omega-3. All right? Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the omega-3 to improve your cardiovascular health, to improve your lipid profile. You should be taking this every day. It's synergistic with other supplements that I have, like octokinase. So go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. Take it every day. Improve your cardiovascular health. Improve your lipid profile. Get your cholesterol, get your total cholesterol to a good level. Don't have it too elevated. Elevated cholesterol can cause problems. All right? Now, when you bring down your LDL, that means that if you're building up plaque, it's harder to build up plaque because you have less LDL. You need the LDL to oxidize to build up the plaque, which is just foam cells building up. The LDL gets into your vessel. It oxidizes. Macrophages come in and try to eat it because it's not supposed to be there. And then the macrophages turn into foam cells and start building up. And you got to build up a plaque. You don't want that. So take omega-3 to bring down that LDL. Take octokinase, bring down that LDL. Improve your cardiovascular health. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. It's really important to take. Take my advice or don't take my advice. But what I do works. It works.
Interesting that it doesn't appear that Israel is sharing information with the U.S. anymore about its plans. You mentioned that pager attack. Here's Secretary Pompeo with me on Sunday. Watch. I thought it was really interesting that the U.S. comes out after the explosions of the pagers and devices and says, we knew nothing about this. What does that tell you in terms of Israel sharing information with the U.S. now?
Maria, this is really important. This tells you all you need to know about the Israelis' trust of the United States today. An operation like that, they almost always would have notified the United States in the advance of the attack. But this time, no, this time they didn't notify us, probably because they felt like the Biden administration was like, no, you can't do this. If you do this, we will go to the UN, we will hold up weapon systems. And so they said, you know, what the heck? We're just going to do this. We'll ask for forgiveness. That is a deep breach of trust, a way that we didn't have while we were in office for 4 years. And frankly, the United States and Israel haven't had for a long time. The Israelis don't trust us. And frankly, our friends, the Gulf Arab states in the region, have no confidence in us either.
General, your thoughts?
Well, he's right. I mean, the real issue here is the fact that the United States has appeased Iran from the very beginning of the administration, you know, backed off on the sanctions, tried to enter into a nuclear deal. So look at where we are. I mean, Iran has operationalized all of its proxies. They've shut down the Suez Canal. Their proxies have fired ballistic missiles at U.S. warships, and we still haven't responded against Iran. 200 plus attacks against U.S. troops that are stationed in Syria and in Iraq since the beginning of this administration. I mean, the Middle East is on fire. And as Iran moves towards a nuclear weapon, we're going to have a nuclear arms race in the Middle East as a result of this administration's policy. That's the path we're on. I mean, it's staggering in terms of the strategic failure of the administration in dealing with Iran and their unwillingness to confront them. This hands-off approach to the main actor, the conductor that's controlling the orchestra and all the players in the Middle East is Iran and their aggression, and we refuse to deal with them directly.
Yeah, exactly. And I always, am struck by every time we have the United Nations General Assembly, we give a visa to the head of Iran to come in and be in New York City and attend this thing. I mean, in the face of all that Iran is doing, is this what the world should be doing? You got the UN General Assembly kicking off in New York this week. The president of Iran, who supports both Hamas and Hezbollah.
Iran is part of the UN, so they should be attending the General Assembly for sure, and it gives a chance to maybe de-escalate this cycle of crazy train in the Middle East. Low probability of that happening, to de-escalate it, but you should be giving Iran the opportunity to participate at the UN General Assembly. So I totally disagree with Maria Bartiromo on that. Now, what we should be doing as a country, the United States, is literally chopping off the theocratic head of Iran. And then the shit will end. But we're too worried about what the international community might think. And think about our options radically change and what we can do when Iran goes nuclear. So isn't it time to kill the theocratic head of Iran? I think so.
In Israel's ongoing war is expected to speak today after the U.S. issued him a visa to come to this thing. President Biden also expected to make one of his last major showings on the world stage. Allies and adversaries will be watching after he made this flub at the Quad Summit meeting this weekend.
I want to thank you all for being here. And now, who am I introducing next? Who's next?
Distinguished guests, the Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
And it's just, it just doesn't look good. I mean, he just doesn't look like he's in charge, General. I mean,
he's not in charge.
Never was. This piece this morning, how freedom has faded on Biden's watch, writing, quote, "It is a far more dangerous world than Mr. Biden inherited." And
excuse me, can you tell me where the train station is located?
Извините, вы можете сказать мне, где находится железнодорожный?
World than Mr. Biden inherited, and far less congenial for U.S. interests, human freedom, and democracy. Authoritarians have advanced on his watch in every part of the world: Europe, Asia, Pacific, and the Middle East, Africa, and even the Americas, General. Your reaction?
Well, that's absolutely true. And the 20 months I spent on the Congressional Commission, we issued our report recently, and we said much the same thing, but we were very specific about it. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have all increased their aggression in the world at the expense of the United States and like-minded democracies. It's not isolated. There's major war in Europe, not seen since World War II. It's not isolated that Iran has stepped up its game in the Middle East and to seek its national objectives to drive the people from living in Israel so that the state of Israel cease to exist and drive the United States out of the region. That's why the Middle East is on fire. And President Xi has stepped up his game in terms of his.
Remember what I was saying earlier about, some of the Kabbalists, some of these very wise rabbis, they were saying that mankind isn't really in charge of these events and that something bigger is happening. All these things are happening, all right? Pandemics, maybe the cause of, manipulation in laboratories and all this, the development of weapons of mass destruction. national security states trying to destroy, other systems of government. For example, CIA trying to take out the Russians and all this. The problematic issue with the Temple Mount and the Dome of the Rock being at the same place. The red heifer is not being sacrificed yet. The problems that are starting to arise with Taiwan and China, the potential negative externalities from artificial intelligence and transhumanism. All these things that are taking place, secular people will view this as, man-made problems. But perhaps we are living in a plague-type epoch. And it's not days, but years, where there's these plagues, right, that are happening. And plagues could be many things. It could be pathologic. There could be a pathogen-related plague. It could be weather, climate. It could be earthquakes or tsunamis or volcano eruptions, drought, famine, floods, insects. And I'll tell you that we're close to this kind of era of plagues. Now, we may be living in the almost, how do I want to say this? The Jewish people in the Torah, the story of the Hebrews were in Egypt and there were plagues, and then eventually there was the Exodus, right? I'm doing broad brush here. Egypt was the knowledge base of the world. It was the most technological, it was the most advanced, and but it also represented hell. All right. And enslaving people and not being able to have freedom to worship. That's the big theme with the Exodus. Independent of, Egyptian Jew. Just think hell. All right, Egypt being hell. And people in hell to try to get out. Now, what if the modern world is Egypt? And there are people in the modern world that want to have their exodus from this larger hell that they're living in. We may call it modern day society, or, other words like dictatorships and all this stuff. But we are living in hell. Most people are living in Egypt. Not in the country Egypt, but in the concept, the biblical concept of Egypt. And that the people, that means all people, right? The people that are enslaved in the system of all religions, creeds, and everything are wanting to go through a major exodus. And so we are seeing the world, because the world is hell now, not just a region, but the world is hell, that there's going to be a mass exodus out of this hell that we've been in for a long time. And that means that power structures change, right? So, maybe we should frame what's going on in this idea that the larger world is Egypt, and that the people, most people, are enslaved by this hell, that during this new age or messianic era or whatever you want to call it, but there is going to be a exodus out of this. But to have that happen, lots of plagues have to happen to destroy the power base, and to convince people that there is a God, and that convince people of a larger, higher power, and all this stuff, right? And people that are sensitive see that these world events are these series of plagues in the larger construct of a larger Egypt and a larger hell in the world. Now, I need to dive in a little bit more deeper in this concept, but I think in general, this is what we're seeing in the world that's happening. This is part of COVID. This is part of these tectonic shifts in the world, geopolitically and physically, geologically. Financial systems in certain areas of the world seem to be, teetering. There's these big events that are happening and setting in motion, this messianic era, setting in motion this era of peace. But to get to that side of the river, a lot of destruction has to happen. Now, you're going to have some people within, let's say, the X community or other social media communities that are demonizing certain types of people, right? That it's some cabal. It must be the Freemasons, or it must be the Jews, or it must be this, or it must be that. It must be the New World Order. But perhaps these cabals that you think are running the show aren't really running the show. Perhaps God wants these negative things to happen. Perhaps God is punishing us and punishing the world at large with these plagues and these signs of wonder for us to be able to traverse across the river. And there is no real cabal. It's all in our head. But there is a invisible hand that people are, shadowy figure. Perhaps that shadowy figure is God. And if I'm right, which I probably am, but if I'm right, then these people that are thinking about there are these cabals out there, you're going to be judged thinking that the events are from man and not from the hand of God. Because if what I'm saying is true, and I think it is, but then that would mean that the ones that are saying that there are cabals out there that are trying to orchestrate these world events, then what you're saying is heresy. And in a different time, that was punishable by death. So, maybe there will be a punishment metaphysically for the ones that are not understanding that the shadowy figure that people keep on blaming other groups on, there is no human group that's orchestrating it. It's actually the hand of God. Because God can do negative and positive. God can curse and bless. And what's weird is that the curse is the blessing, because it'll allow you to realize your wrongdoings and move in a different direction. But I'm starting to think that a lot of these conspiracy theorists, dealing with cabals and that orchestrating, some sort of, population control and all this stuff, it's not humans. Humans are doing things, but who's really allowing the humans to do it? For example, COVID happened through manipulation and release. But God could have intervened and not made so many people sick. Could have intervened. God could have intervened and prevented the catastrophe. But we were supposed to go through it to teach us something. Now, I have my own opinions on what that teaching was. So humans do things, and we think we are in control. But the reality is that God's allowing us to do these things. God is allowing these things to become pernicious for a reason. So there's no real cabal. There is no group that's really orchestrating and controlling things because God's allowing it to happen. That's an important point, an important feature of why most conspiracy theorists, where they think that there's this gigantic cabal, controlling things, they're missing the boat. And that God is wanting these things to happen because most people don't deserve freedom, and that there has to be a cleansing, a killing and a cleansing for people to get over the river. But people don't want to hear that because most people think they're good. Most people are bad. Most people don't deserve the freedoms that they have. One, because they don't fight for them, and two, they piss on them.
Aggression in the Indo-Pacific region, the drumbeat of leading to a major conflict, where we could be fighting a war in more than one region, is on the horizon. It is alarming, the seriousness and the danger that we're facing.
Yeah.
And this administration will not talk to it, will not tell the American people how serious and challenging this danger really is.
Right.
And I think he's probably going to make a speech today where he's going to pat himself on the back for how much he's done to stabilize the world.
It's unbelievable. And by the way, Kamala Harris is not abandoning that strategy. She's right there. She was the last person in the room in the Afghanistan withdrawal botched situation. So she wants to double down on his policies. But look, I want to get to the war between Russia and Ukraine. I know you've spoken with Zelensky. It's raging on and entering a third year now.
Does it really make sense that the Democratic Party puts in the first woman president? Doesn't it make more sense that a Republican puts the first woman as president, assuming that that woman has leadership skills and a good future insight and has skill sets that would make the nation move in a positive direction? There are probably more women that are Republican that have the skill set, the charisma to be the president of the United States than any Democrat. Why? Why should Democrats put? I mean, it was Republicans that put females on the Supreme Court. It was a Republican that put the first Black person on the Supreme Court. Republicans are more in line with the plurality of the United States, not the Democrats. The Democrats want Black people to vote in a block. Stay on your plantation in the urban plantation and vote for a Democrat. Same thing with the Teamsters. The Democrats want you listen to your Teamster boss and vote Democrat. Don't vote as a thinking citizen, but you got to vote as a block because that's how we control you. That's how the Democrats think. That's their whole modus operandi. And unfortunately, most Black people don't see it. So they stay on the urban plantation and vote Democrat. The blue collar worker doesn't see it and they vote typically Democrat. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Because the Republican Party is far more open-minded and pluralistic than the Democratic Party.
And President Zelensky set to address the United Nations before meeting with President Biden. He will meet separately with the Vice President, Kamala Harris. He's also stated his intention to meet with former President Trump, but we have no evidence that that meeting is happening. Zelensky says he will show Biden Ukraine.
You need your team, but she's lost in emails. He's consumed by a doc. You lose them for hours every day, but not pen. With Grammarly's AI,
he says he will show Biden Ukraine's victory plan. and he will push for permission from the U.S. and other allies to strike targets further inside Russia using long-range weaponry. General, you spoke with President Zelensky and his foreign minister on Sunday evening. What can you tell us in terms of what you've learned?
Yeah, well, I wanted to emphasize to them that they legitimately, they've got to make a strong request to remove those restrictions on U.S. weapons. I told them very frankly that the reasons the Biden administration are using are not reasons; they're just excuses. They're saying that most of the targets that Russia has within range of those ATACMS are no longer there. That's not true. We have a map that shows that at the Institute for the Study of War, 245 Russian military targets within range of those missile systems, 16 air bases where the glide bombs are being used by the Su-34s and 35s that are delivering them, all of them reachable by those weapon systems. The use of those weapon systems would have major positive impact on what Ukraine is trying to do and the objectives he's trying to achieve. So I hope the administration listens to President Zelensky here and grants them that request. And certainly he's going to get into more details about what he's trying to accomplish in the next few months. Yeah. The support from the United States and the Europeans is obviously crucial to his success.
By the way, Japan fired at Russian jets who they say violated their airspace. God, is Japan getting involved in this now? I mean, it truly is worrisome to expect that we could see a World War III here. The chief cabinet secretary of Japan held an emergency press conference overnight on the clashing that the Russian planes violated Japanese airspace north of Ribbon Island in Hokkaido 3 times between 1 and 3 p.m. local time yesterday, General.
Yeah, Japan, they have woken up to the crisis. They have educated their people. They told themselves, they told the people of Japan that they've got to change. They doubled their defense budget. They're building real military capability. They know that China and Russia are enemies, and they have to be prepared themselves to deal with them along with the United States. They are absolutely moving in the right direction.
Unbelievable. All right, General, great to see you this morning. We so appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. General Jack Keane.
Probably the most common question that I'm asked as a professor at Hillsdale is, what happened to my country?
Yeah, no kidding. What happened to my country? It's going to hell. Let's listen to this one.
We bring in retired Army General, Major General Dana Pittard. He served multiple combat tours in the Middle East and in 2014 led the U.S. effort to stop the spread of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. He knows these regions extraordinarily well. Major General, welcome. Very good to have you with us. Sir, let's start with good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much. Well, what is your assessment of what looks like a major escalation in war in the Middle East?
Well, there's concern, obviously, of a wider war in the Middle East. But what Israel's doing with Hezbollah, they have the right to defend themselves. Hezbollah has been lobbing missiles and rockets consistently against Israel, northern Israel, really since the day after October 7th, so since October 8th. Israel was doing what they could, but they were certainly occupied by the fight in Gaza. Now they're able to switch some resources to the north against Hezbollah. And Hezbollah has got to learn that they can't keep lobbing missiles at northern Israel. Israel has had 70,000 of its citizens displaced from northern Israel because of those rocket attacks.
All right. Nasrallah, let's take a look at the chart that shows, we heard in the report that he is alone at the top of his chain of command. Let's take a look at that chart, which shows who has been taken out so far. And it shows that Nasrallah is, according to this information from the IDF, he's lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of his very top people. Only 2 remain. And when you listen to the take that we get from reporters on the ground there, the people of Lebanon are not getting what they need and want in society from Hezbollah. Is this structure weakened? Is Nasrallah in danger of losing his position at this point?
Well, the structure has absolutely been weakened. especially the recent death of Ibrahim Akil, who was a trusted senior advisor to Nasrallah.
I want to drop into Al Jazeera's feed to the United Nations, where the King of Jordan is speaking.
Over and over, we have watched Israel try to achieve security through military means. Each escalation is followed by a pause until the next deadlier one. And for years, the global community has taken the path of least resistance, accepting the status quo of the ongoing military occupation of Palestinians, all the while paying lip service to the two-state solution. But it has never been more evident that the current status quo is untenable. And as the International Court of Justice's advisory opinion underscored 2 months ago, it is unequivocally illegal. The court's opinion bears a moral imperative to us all. The obligation it carries is one that our nations cannot afford to ignore for the sake of our world, as well as the future for Palestinians and Israelis alike. Because both peoples deserve to live their lives in dignity, free of violence and fear. And the only way to achieve that is a just peace, one grounded in international law, justice, equal rights, and mutual recognition. That is something we, as nations and people everywhere, can and must unite around. Your Excellencies.
But he's not answering the big question, and that is the borders of Israel need to go back to the temple days, the biblical days. That it means that his land has to be truncated, because some of Jordan would go to Israel. In addition, there has to be absolute control of the Temple Mount for the rebuilding of the temple. That means the Dome of the Rock comes down. That's the big issue. Now, the Palestinians can have Gaza. They sure as hell can't have the West Bank. And oh, by the way, Egypt can't have the Sinai Peninsula, nor some areas of Lebanon or Syria, or even maybe even Iraq. I'd have to look into it. The point here is that some of these nations are going to lose. Now, remember, I was saying that September 24th is a date that I'm concerned about. Now, maybe there's a pernicious thing that happens at the UN that leads to a cascade of events. This may be the actual thing that I was looking for. Because now you have Jordan, who typically is on the side of Israel. All right? The king of Jordan is typically on the side of Israel. But he needs to watch it. Because like I said, remember, things are going to happen that is going to make a larger war that allows for Israel to get to expand. And we may just have seen that event take place. Not in a kinetic form, but in a pernicious political form, in an international policy form. You can't reach homeostasis with the Israelis and the Palestinians until the land is going back to the temple times and that the Temple Mount is rebuilt. Now, there's areas that the Palestinians can go to and have their own land. But if they want what was the actual land rights, biblical land rights of the Jewish people, they ain't gonna fly. No Jewish person is gonna allow that to happen. That has any understanding of biblical text. This cannot be people. This is where people get it wrong. You cannot solve this problem with typical international policy because it's not us in charge. Remember what I was saying just before. We think we're in charge. We're not in charge. We're not in charge. We can't solve this problem through typical international politics. You got to use the lens of the covenant and what that the property rights of Jacob. So he's setting in motion his own his land being truncated. He may be actually on the other side of the war. He may be on the enemy side when this thing all plays out. Now remember, during World War II, there were enemies and allies, and then they switched and they went back and forth. With Russia, Russia was somewhat allied with Hitler, and then they weren't. Things change.
The world is watching, and history will judge us by the courage we show. And it is not just the future that will hold us accountable. So will the people of the here and now. They will judge whether we as the United Nations will surrender to inaction.
This is what I mean by the Esau fracturing. We may actually see the beginnings of the Esau negative right here through King Abdullah, or whatever his name is. King Abdullah, monarch King Abdullah for Jordan. We may actually, you're seeing a glimpse of what I was saying in this video about this negative Esau starting to crack. It's starting to develop. He may be on this negative Esau side. Now, is he playing lip service to the UN and just saying these things and he doesn't believe it? I don't know. But if he really believes this makes me think that he is negative Esau, not positive Esau. While a lot of people were thinking that Jordan was positive Esau. This makes it problematic because he's near Saudi Arabia. King Jordan should be, now he doesn't want, now think about it, if you look at the history, no one wants the Palestinians. The Egyptians don't want the Palestinians, the Saudi Arabians don't want the Palestinians, the Lebanese don't want the Palestinians, the Syrians don't want the Palestinians, the Jordanians don't want the Palestinians. And this is why they're basically saying, Israel, you deal with it. Israel is your problem. He may lose his monarchy. I wouldn't be surprised.
Or will fight to uphold the principles that anchor this institution and our world. Right now, they are asking whether we will stand by as parents watch their children's waste away, as doctors watch their patients die for lack of basic medical supplies, and as more innocent lives are lost because the world failed to act. This war must end. Hostages and detainees must return home. But every day we wait is one day too long for far too many. So I quote.
There's a lot of smell that's coming from the UN. And they need to go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the specialty deodorants that I have partnered up with Rainbow Herbals. We have citrus and peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It's all natural. It has no aluminum, no baking soda, and it's a dual-purpose product. It acts as a deodorant. You use it every day, so you smell nice. In addition, it helps to detoxify your body because our bodies are full of toxins and you need a detox. And a daily mild detoxification of your body is a good thing. That's why getting good sleep helps to detoxify your body, so you don't have the garbage in your neurons. All right. Same thing with other cells in your body. You have to detox. please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the citrus deodorant or the peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. It's a very high quality deodorant for males and females. Get a couple bars for your household. It's very high quality. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, so you don't smell like King Abdullah.
For all countries to join Jordan in enforcing an international Gaza humanitarian gateway, a massive relief effort to deliver food, clean water, medicine, and other vital supplies to those in desperate need. Because humanitarian aid should never be a tool of war. Whatever our politics, one truth is undeniable. No people should have to endure such unprecedented suffering, abandoned and alone. We cannot surrender the future to those who thrive on division and conflict. I urge all nations of conscience to unite with Jordan in the critical weeks ahead on this mission. Almost a year into this war, our world has failed politically, but our humanity must not fail the people of Gaza any longer. Echoing the words of my father from 64 years ago at the 15th session of the General Assembly, I pray that this community of nations may have the courage to decide wisely and fearlessly, and will act with urgent resolve that this crisis and our conscience demand. My father was a man who fought for peace to the very end. And like him, I refuse to leave my children or your children a future we have given up on. Thank you.
You have been listening to the King of Jordan, speaking live from the platform of the UN General Assembly, where world leaders are gathered the next 10 days or so, and each will be given a 15-minute speaking slot. We heard from the US President Joe Biden, we heard from Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, amongst other leaders, as well as the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, and just now the King of Jordan, who devoted his entire speech to Israel's war on Gaza. Let's go to our UN correspondent, Gabriel Elizondo. You're at UN headquarters in New York. You're following all of these live, of course, Gabriel. Let's try and go over the highlights. First of all, I'll start with this. King Abdullah's speech appeared.
King Abdullah knows that his country would go into chaos if the Palestinians had to leave Israel proper, maybe even the West Bank area, and move into Jordan. He wants to maintain his monarchy. If they are so worried about the Palestinians, why don't they let them immigrate to their country? Because they don't want them.
Me to be very strong, both in content and delivery. Do you want to run us through the highlights, Gabriel?
Sure, was strong, and perhaps by no surprise, he focused on the issue that is most critical, and that so many world leaders are talking about, both publicly and privately, and that's Gaza and Israel's continued bombardment of Gaza and the humanitarian catastrophe that is taking place there. Also, I should mention Lebanon as well. We can maybe get to that a little bit later. But King Abdullah, who knows the situation in Gaza as well as anybody, really said that the UN system, the UN itself, is under attack, both politically and otherwise. More than 220 UNRWA staff members have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. So he started out with that, but then went into how this conflict has to stop, called out Israel specifically, and it's called out the world, really, saying that we can no longer go on with the status quo. The status quo, he said, that is currently untenable. And the King Abdullah saying that this Israel's bombardment of Gaza shows that the status quo is no longer.
I think that September 24th is this issue that I have with September 24th, my worry. Okay. Now I'm just thinking out loud here. I could, change my mind on this. But this moment in time, I get this, flash of information, and this idea struck me, right? God is looking down on the UN to see what the people, the nations, decide through this crisis that's coming. And he's putting people on one side or the other. Are you Jacob? Are you Ishmael? Are you positive Esau? Or are you negative Esau? And this is starting to the divide, the filtering, the sifting out of these nations are happening right now. So when Rosh Hashanah comes in and the new blessing comes down and the new curses come down, that these people are now made their bed and now they have to lay in it. All right. I would not be surprised that something bad happens to the Jordanian people or the Jordanian territory or maybe even the monarchy. I mean, can he really justify a monarchy in today's world? He's talking about justice and equal rights of people and all that. Why do you have a monarchy? All right. I think we solved that problem in 1776. All right. Monarchies don't work. So as a ruling power. So I just feel as though this event in 2024, September 24th, 2024, it's a filtering process. Maybe. Now, maybe another event happens that's kinetic, that changes my mind, but I didn't get a very positive feel that he is Esau positive. He seemed to me Esau negative. And that I remember what I said, part of the biblical boundaries for Israel involves Jordan. It's taking away from Jordan. Now, I thought maybe there would be a war between, Israel and its allies, assuming that Jordan was one of its allies, and, the enemies being Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, and that somehow, some way, Jordan lost some territory, right, and the fall of the monarchy. But it may be actually direct conflict between Israel and Jordan. I have a hard time seeing that happening anytime in the near future. But it's not, there is a part of Jordan that's supposed to be part of Israel. All right, biblical boundaries. So that means that something is going to happen to Jordan. Right? Like I said, instead of trying to move forward in time, why don't you take the point and do backwardation? If the Bible's right, the Bible has told us what the end point is, the boundaries. How? Just doing, mental simulation in your head. What sort of things have to happen from where we're at today for it to be that? And you just think about these different scenarios. We already have been given what the end point is. We know where we're at today. And we have to come up with solutions. What's the possible pathways to get there? Now, some are going to be very bloody and others are not. But Jordan loses land. And we may have actually seen him sow the seed for the destruction of his own monarchy, assuming that we're not in charge, that God's listening and seeing and watching what we're doing, and he's making a judgment. There's a judgment that's taking place. Jews aren't the only ones that get judged on Yom Kippur. The whole fucking world does.
Possible when it comes to this conflict. He talked about, he called on other countries to join Jordan to set up a Gaza humanitarian gateway to try to get aid into Gaza. So he's put so little substance as well into his speech. But clearly he said the world has failed humanity when it comes to Gaza, spent his entire speech on Gaza. And it really shows you how important it is right now.
Gabriel, not long before the King of Jordan, we heard the U.S.
It's so
President Joe
important
Biden
because
addressing-
if they spill over to his country, it destabilizes his monarchy. That's why. You think he really cares about the Palestinians? If he cared so much about the Palestinians, why didn't he open up his own country to them? Because he doesn't.
Nations General Assembly for the last time, because of course he isn't running again for president. What did you take away from that?
Well, it was a speech by a president who has a very long career on the international stage. That's number one. And this is and will be his last speech here at the United Nations as president of the United States. So you got a little sense that he was sort of reminiscing a little bit, talking about U.S. history going back to Vietnam. Setting that aside, though, the issue of the day, of course, is Gaza and is Lebanon. The U.S. president saying Qatar, Egypt, he's been working with those countries to get a ceasefire. He says this war in Gaza has to end. And what was interesting is that received sustained applause in the General Assembly Hall, where more than 75 heads of state were sitting listening to the speech, more than leaders of more than 193 different countries. So you got a sense that really the world is with the Palestinians when it comes to the call to end this war on Gaza. And then also the President of the United States making
breaking news. Corn futures are at 412.
Passing reference, if you will, to Lebanon, saying a full-scale war in Lebanon is in nobody's interest. Well, clearly that's the case. What the President of the United States failed to mention is what he plans to do, what his administration plans to do to pressure Israel to stop the aggression on Lebanon. That was not mentioned in his speech. So that was fairly interesting as well. But
please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The world's going up in flames. It has a lot of inflammatory problems from the UN. And you want to bring down that inflammation in your body so it doesn't hurt your immune system and cause cardiovascular disease and cause memory problems. You want to keep that inflammation down. How do you do that? Take turmeric. Turmeric is an antioxidant, but also it brings down pro-inflammatory cytokines. And ashwagandha root helps to bring down that inflammation, controls blood glucose levels, and brings down cortisol levels. Very important to bring down that inflammatory response and boost up your immune system and improve your cardiovascular health. So please take turmeric and ashwagandha every day. It's a major pillar of the anti-aging protocol. Take ashwagandha every day and it will do huge benefits for you, especially when you take the structural nanosilver liquid every day to neutralize pathogens and taking the C60 to soak up those free radicals. When you do that, those three pillars are really, the core is really, really important. And you build off that core and you're going to see major benefits on your health. So please go to my store and get the turmeric and the ashwagandha. I also have Vitamin D3, it's a gene expression cofactor. It helps for proper cellular processes. In addition, it helps to absorb calcium, and D3 helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis, especially if they're infected cells, from a pathogen or whatever. Because pathogens like viruses and stuff will trick the cell, all right, not to go into apoptosis. D3 helps to get the cell to go into apoptosis. So during the cold season, it's really important to take vitamin D3. But you should be taking vitamin D3 every day just for proper cellular health, because it's a gene expression cofactor and it helps with your bones by absorbing calcium. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video. Resveratrol, really important as an antioxidant. It also helps to get rid of senesced cells. Senesced cells stop dividing and start accumulating toxins, starts accumulating garbage, all right? And over time, as you age, you build up more senesced cells and more garbage. You want to get rid of them. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take resveratrol every day. I take resveratrol every day. I've been taking it for decades. And, it's synergistic with C60, all right? It's an antioxidant. It is an antioxidant in a different pathway, but it also helps to get rid of senesced cells. And when you get rid of senesced cells, it'll activate those basal layers that have adult stem cells to be able to produce new cells that have longer telomere lengths. So what will happen is that if you take a biopsy of, let's say, of some tissue, and you analyze it before taking an anti-aging protocol, you'll notice that the telomere lengths are a certain length. All right. After a year, and you do another biopsy, and you take stuff like resveratrol and C60 together, what will happen is you'll notice in the biopsy, the cells for tissues that can regenerate, that have a basal layer that has adult stem cells, that tissue, that telomere length is longer after taking the protocol. That means that the tissue is actually younger, from using the length of the telomeres as a gauge of how old or how young your tissue is. Another mechanism is to analyze the methylation of those cells, the DNA, the methylation of the DNA. The point is that when you're on these anti-aging protocols, you'll notice that the telomere lengths are longer, and you'll notice that the methylation has a blueprint, or has a pattern that is of a younger pattern, not an older person pattern. That's important. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. Resveratrol works a lot better when you stack it with something like C60 and ubiquinol and NAD+. All right. So pay attention. Also NEC. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the resveratrol. Olive leaf extract. You should be taking this every day if you want to improve your immune system and your cardiovascular health. How does it work? It improves your immune system by bringing down inflammation. All right. It helps to bring down those pro-inflammatory cytokines. It helps cardiovascularly by bringing down inflammation and bringing down LDL levels and increasing your HDL levels. So it's improving your lipid profile. Please go to my store and take this olive leaf extract every day if you want to improve your immune system and your cardiovascular health. It's a dual purpose product. It will help you get healthier, especially if money's tight and you don't know what to take. Getting things that are dual purpose are really important to get that benefit. All right. Please, what I'm saying works. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the olive leaf extract. Vitamin C, very important for your immune system and for your skin. You should be taking it every day. And if you're sick, take a double dose, drink it with filtered water. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin C with the magnesium. All right, enough with Al Jazeera because it aggravates me. Let's go to Fox.
Is the Hezbollah command structure going to go away? No. They'll replace them, but it'll be very, very difficult to do that.
With regard to this window that we're in the United States, as we wait for an election to take place just a few weeks from now, there are a lot of questions about who is in command at the moment. This is President Biden speaking about this earlier today. We have not seen him speaking out about much of this in recent weeks, but here he is.
I've agreed on the latest developments in Israel and Lebanon. My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return home safely.
He appeared to be reading that off a statement in the Oval Office today. Your thoughts on whether or not we're vulnerable given how close we are to the election?
Well, elections and transitions are always points of time that would always concern me as a military person in other places in the world. But this is the United States of America. President Biden is in charge until his inauguration or inauguration of the next president in January. So we clearly have someone who is the president and they're in charge. But it is a point that the rest of the world is looking at. If they feel like there's weakness, they'll take advantage of, or they'll attempt to take advantage of that weakness.
With regard to these pagers and that attack, one security expert from the Kennedy School today said that these really have changed the game, and that once you start launching these sorts of attacks that are attached to technology, other countries can accept similar kinds of battle technique. Do you agree with that? And do you think that this attack was, truly a game changer?
Well, I thought the attack was brilliant in so many ways. The know-how to do that has been exercised before, but not on that scale, and not that scale to where all at one time, all the pagers blew up with significant leaders and even lower level leaders in Hezbollah. And then they did it again with walkie-talkies. And so is it a game changer? No, but it was an innovative tactic that helped Israel in the opening stages of this new campaign.
It's an innovative technique that the Israelis used, but God allowed it to happen. And not only that, God allowed it to happen twice. You would have thought that, you know what? Pagers blew up. Don't use the walkie-talkies the next day. But they used the walkie-talkies. So it's just, God allowed for stupidity to happen with Hezbollah. All right. This is what I mean, that we do things that we think we're in control, but we're really not in control because God can allow it to happen or not allow it to happen. And he's trying to teach us something. He's trying to guide us in a certain direction. It's up to us to move in that direction, but, and if we are stubborn and we don't, it gets worse. If we are wise and we move in the direction, it's an easy path. And that's what's happening here. God could have easily said, you know what? God says, you know what? I'm for Hezbollah, and I'm not going to let the pagers blow up. No, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He let it happen, and he let it happen twice. That's what I mean by that. We think we're in control, but we're really not in control, because there's a randomness that can be manipulated by God. There's what we use as randomness, what we think of as randomness, probabilities. That's the space that seems that God plays in regularly.
We're going to see more of this in the future.
Yeah, I understood. What about this decision to send more troops to the region? I think there is a lot of concern in this country about where all of this is headed. It's a very scary time when you see this lack of stability in the Middle East, and now you see more of our service members on their way there.
Well, I think we saw that in October. It's precautionary. We've got troops throughout the region, and additional troops to help as far as force protection and in other things, I think is just a prudent decision.
General Chard, thank you very much. Great to have you with us as always,
you,
sir. I
Martha.
hope you'll join us again.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews. Here's how these high-tech shoes are helping to relieve lower back pain, knee pain, and even improve your posture. The unique design combines.
Thanks for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Today, Israel launching its largest bombing campaign in nearly 20 years, striking Hezbollah, as the Israeli defense minister says they've eliminated tens of thousands of their weapons. All of this as Israel warns the people of Lebanon to get out of harm's way. We'll bring you the story from Jerusalem. It's one of the biggest stories in the world, but you won't hear about it in the headlines. The global population crisis. But it isn't a problem of too many people. Instead, we don't have enough. We'll explain what it means for our future. And a good news story, how a Christian mentorship effort that began on one college campus has now become a nationwide movement. We'll show you how.
Again, I work with I listen to something and then a thought comes to mind. So you're seeing things in real time, as I'm thinking. That population issue that they're talking about, what happens when there's large war? There's increased birth rates after. There's going to be a mass truncation of life. And then there's going to be a major increase in birth.
Unite Us is reaching out to help young people across the country. And he is one big bird, a penguin who weighs as much as both of his parents combined. We'll have a look at the social media icon and star attraction at an Australian aquarium. These stories and much more today on Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
And we begin in the Middle East, where Israel has launched a major assault on Hezbollah in Lebanon called Operation Northern Arrows. It's designed to allow tens of thousands of Israelis to return to their homes in the north after they were forced to leave because of months of Hezbollah rocket attacks. As CBN's Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, it's Israel's biggest bombing campaign since the 2006 second war with Lebanon.
Israeli warplanes launched more than 1,600 strikes to destroy Hezbollah rocket launchers, drones, and UAVs inside southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley.
Essentially, we're targeting combat infrastructure that Hezbollah has been building for the past 20 years.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says they've taken out tens of thousands of weapons in Hezbollah's arsenal. Many of the weapons are in homes and buildings in civilian-populated areas. Multiple videos of the strikes showed secondary explosions igniting rockets, and the IDF released photos of Hezbollah rockets inside Lebanese homes. The strikes follow recent targeted attacks that decimated Hezbollah's top military leadership.
Over the course of 1 week, we can say that in many ways, Nasrallah remains alone at the top.
Nearly 500 died in Monday's wave, and some 2,000 were injured, many of them Hezbollah fighters. The IDF issued warnings to Lebanese civilians to get out of harm's way.
However, even as we called on civilians to move away from danger, we saw that Hezbollah operatives were doing the opposite and acted to prevent civilian moving safety.
Hezbollah fired hundreds of rockets as far south as Haifa, sending Israeli civilians to bomb shelters. While some rockets landed, most were intercepted by the Iron Dome. In Lebanon, thousands clogged the roads north in an exodus to escape the fighting. In a message to the Lebanese people, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is not at war with Lebanon, but Hezbollah.
For too long, Hezbollah has been using you as human shields. It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens. To defend our people against Hezbollah strikes, we must take out those weapons. Now, starting this morning, the IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones. Don't let Hezbollah endanger Lebanon.
The IDF says this is just a prelude to bigger goals, including eliminating Nasrallah. The question is if and when Israel may launch a ground invasion.
Chris Mitchell is with us.
Hey, I'm Stephen Kars, co-founder of CarePops. Zero makes it super easy to stay on top of your cash flow. It sometimes answers questions that you don't know you should be asking, and it puts the right information in front of you at the right time.
Dentists hate when you do this, but they can't stop you. This new $100 dental device uses cutting-edge ultrasonic technology and has the cleaning power of a high-precision laser. And its unprecedented success is leaving dentists scrambling.
Chris Mitchell is with us now from our news bureau in Jerusalem. Chris, great to see you. What is the IDF saying about its future plans, and what are the chances that Israel goes ahead with a ground invasion against Hezbollah?
Well, as we've reported, they are saying this is a prelude, and if this is the prelude, Wendy, you can imagine what really is going to happen in southern Lebanon with the IDF strikes. It is really the first time, I think, a shift in Israeli offensive capabilities right now. And really, there's a sense that Israel won't stop until victory. And as we said, maybe capturing or eliminating Hezbollah. Now, in terms of a ground invasion, the successful air campaign has been very successful, but they really want to create a buffer zone inside southern Lebanon from the Israeli-Lebanese border all the way up to the Litani River. And they have approved battle plans for that. And it does seem like if they really want to control this area, it's going to be inevitable they're going to have boots on the ground to go ahead and take that land. So it is expected there will be a ground invasion. When that's going to happen and what it looks like, we don't know yet, Wendy.
Chris, Israel's trying to bring back around 60,000 Israelis that were driven out of their homes by Hezbollah's rocket attacks. Is there any kind of timeline to get them back? Because they've been gone for months, since October 7th, really.
Yeah, 60,000 people, over 40 communities, and even more people have really been put in bomb shelters because of these 11 months of and more than 9,000 rockets by Hezbollah. Any timetable really depends, Wendy, on what we just talked about. Will there be a ground invasion? Will Hezbollah be eliminated as a threat? Just like the residents in the south, the residents in the north don't want to go back home if the government can't guarantee their safety, where they can do life, they can go to work, they can send their kids to school and reopen their businesses. So there's a sense that has to happen before any timeline for these people going back to their homes. One other thing, and Wendy, you and I were up there on the border in 2006. There's a question, will the good fence return? The good fence before 2000 used to be a way where people could actually go into that buffer zone, security zone that Israel had from 1982 to 2000. That would be a real sign of a good news if the good fence would return.
Yes, I remember that very well. Seems like yesterday. Well, where does the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah find himself during this bombing campaign?
He's watching much of his 20-year arsenal of thousands and thousands of rockets, drones, UAVs. They're gone. Half of them are gone, it's estimated, and it keeps getting destroyed. Much of his top leadership has been eliminated. That's why Gallant said he's basically alone at the top right now. Thousands of Hezbollah fighters have been disabled, wounded, or killed in that beeper attack just days ago. Their communication is limited. The morale is low. And as we reported yesterday, Yigal Karman, from the founder of Memory, told us there's a big distrust in his leadership right now. He was the one responsible for the beeper catastrophe. So whether or not he can recover from this latest blow, it seems like first he gets blown, he gets hit, and gets hit again. So right now he's reeling, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to recover anytime soon.
What about Iran, Chris? How are they reacting to the bombing?
Well, believe it or not, so far not much. One Living analyst told me that they're looking for support, their attention at Iran's doors, but really not getting the attention you would expect. Hezbollah was really supposed to be Iran's insurance in case Israel got attacked. Israel attacked Iran's nuclear facilities, but right now they seem to be abandoning Hezbollah. That also seemed to be the case in much of the fighting in the south with Hamas. There's a sense here in the Middle East that Iran will fight to the last Lebanese, the Palestinian, or the Houthi, or whatever that proxy may be. But right now, it seems like Iran's not really coming to the aid of Hezbollah, either militarily or even diplomatically.
Chris, the U.S. is sending more forces to the Middle East while the Biden administration is trying to de-escalate the situation. Will that stop Israel from going ahead with its plans to keep attacking Hezbollah?
That's not the sense I get right now, Wendy. The sense I get is that Israel is really determined to finish the job. Going on the offense, and it really, if you look at the last couple of weeks, the way they've eliminated the top leadership of Hezbollah, while this unprecedented attack against the thousands of Hezbollah fighters, there's a sense that Israel is winning and it's on the offensive, and that they want to finally eliminate Hezbollah as a threat. In terms of the U.S., they have a carrier group on the way to the region. Abraham Lincoln is in the Persian Gulf. And also, I was reading earlier today, Wendy, that the U.S. has, quote, concrete ideas for restoring calm, according to the State Department. They wouldn't say what those were, but it seems like here in Israel, they really want to make sure that they can eliminate Hezbollah as a threat, as it has been for many, many years.
And Chris, a lot of our viewers may not know.
Before we continue, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAC. NAC is something that I take every day. It helps to bring up your glutathione levels. Glutathione is an antioxidant, and it's a different pathway. It's synergistic with C60. But the whole point here is that you take NAC every day, you increase your glutathione levels. It's a strong antioxidant. That way you're reducing those free radicals in your cells, right? And NAC also helps to detoxify the liver and the kidney. And it helps to maintain mental health. So take NAC every day to get those glutathione levels increased so you have another pathway to soak up those free radicals. NAC is something that's taken by many people that are part of the whole anti-aging longevity subculture, right? So NAC is really important. I have noticed a major synergistic effect with C60 and NAC and being able to soak up those free radicals. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAC. Ubiquinol, very important to take. This is the active form for CoQ10. All right, so everyone's heard of CoQ10. Well, CoQ10 in its active form is ubiquinol. This is better. All right, so go to my store and get the ubiquinol. All right, this is an antioxidant. It'll also help to boost up your energy levels. So it's synergistic with C60, synergistic with NAC, right? And it will help with neural protection, right? It'll help to maintain health and protect your neurons. This is very important to add to your anti-aging protocol and to boost up your immune system. Why? Because it's another type of antioxidant. All right, so it's attacking and soaking up those free radicals in so many different ways, not just with the C60, not just with the resveratrol, not just with the NAC, right? So when you take these different vectors all at the same time, what happens is that you're soaking up those free radicals, you know, in a more efficient way. And when you're doing that, it's actually beneficial. All right, it's synergistic. There's by stacking this stuff, you notice that you recover faster after a workout, or you recover faster if you've been sick, or you are just noticing that you're aging slower. So please go to the store and get the ubiquinol. This is the active form for CoQ10. Go to my store, get this, because this is better than that CoQ10 that you typically take. All right, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get ubiquinol. Really important. Vitamin K2, MK7 helps to maintain bone health and joint health, and helps to improve your cardiovascular health. You should take this with D3. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin K2. Nattokinase. Important to break up clots because it's fibrinolytic, and at higher doses, it will bring down your LDL levels and increase your HDL levels to help to control your cholesterol. This is synergistic with omega-3. All right. So now you get an idea on how to improve your cholesterol, how to lower your cholesterol without taking a statin. Take nattokinase and take the omega-3. Now, in addition, if you have high cholesterol, stop eating, high cholesterol foods. Reduce your cholesterol intake, and also eat maybe 2 or 3 times a week oatmeal. Oatmeal will help to bind some of the cholesterol in your gut, and then you'll excrete it out in your feces. So you're excreting out the cholesterol, you are reducing the cholesterol that you're eating, and you're taking supplements like nattokinase and omega-3 to bring down your LDL levels and increase your HDL levels, so you're improving your cholesterol. Please pay attention. This works so you don't have to go down the statin route. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get nattokinase.
That you have a fantastic show called Jerusalem Dateline. Give us a sneak peek of what's on tap today for the new edition of Jerusalem Dateline.
Now we'll have update stories. Also, we're going to have that in-depth interview with Yigal Karman about Nasrallah, and also Ambassador David Friedman about his new book called The One Jewish State.
Fantastic. Sounds like a great show. Chris, we always appreciate your insights. God bless you.
Thanks, Wendy.
RCBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. That was a great interview. Well, coming up, it's one of the most important stories in the world. It is happening beyond the headlines. We'll bring you a look at how the global population is going to shrink for the first time since the bubonic plague, and what it can mean for our future when we come back.
See what I mean? See what I mean? There's a series of curses that have been happening over the years. I don't know how far back we should, start the count, but we are in a global Egypt, and the people of the world are going through these tumultuous times for a major global exodus. Now, some people may call this the Great Reset, but I think that if you put it in the terms of a global Egypt and a global exodus, it really hits home this idea that we have these series of plagues over the years that are affecting us. And some people are starting to wake up and they're preparing for it, and other people are not. And there's going to be winners and losers in this, just like there were winners and losers during the story of the Exodus in the Bible. All right. Maybe we're seeing something happening, through some sort of series of plagues, and maybe because of our secularism and this ultra liberal agenda that's happening in Western countries, in terms of aborting fetuses at a fast clip, doing late term abortions and all this stuff, not having affinity for God, country, and family, which is a theme that I've been saying on my channel. That to make the world a better place, you have to have God, country, and family. But the ultra liberals want to destroy God, they want to destroy family, and they want to destroy country. So maybe we're seeing, because of the decisions that we've made, another plague happening, another series of plagues that are happening economically, because lower population makes your population less prowess. If you use international power theory, you know, if you have a declining population and you have a declining economy, you may be invaded. And rise and fall of empires happen with declining populations, especially because of pathogens. So we need to pay attention here, because this declining population, and this is the first that I've heard from this show about this topic, but my opinion on this is another data point that shows that we're in a series of years of different plagues that are happening because of the decisions that we decided to do, right? And we're not fully in charge of what we think we're in charge, but we're not fully in charge. We don't understand that this thing can snowball and cause negative externalities.
Litter Robot has now solved the litter box problem for over 1 million pet parents around the world. Hi, I'm Brad Baxter, founder of Whisker.
The world is facing a population crisis, but it's not because of too many people, it's because there will be too few of us. Experts predict the number of people on the planet could begin to shrink in the next 30 years. They also warn that it's likely to create serious economic and social problems. As Dale Hurd shows us, their predictions are dire.
Empty playgrounds, schools without enough students to stay open, small towns deserted and abandoned. This is not some dystopian vision of the future. Demographers warn this is our future. Global population growth is leveling off, and by the second half of this century could begin to shrink for the first time since the bubonic plague struck the world almost 700 years ago.
Everything that we understand that functions in our societies today that depends on people, which is almost everything, is going to change.
Stephen J. Shaw is a data scientist, demographer, and producer of the film Birth Gap. He spoke to us from his home in Japan, one of the nations at the forefront of this global demographic collapse. Shaw told us he made the documentary mostly out of fear.
Fear of the future that we're, as a planet, completely unprepared for and mostly unaware of.
The population crisis could be the most important story of our time because of all the changes and potential problems that it will bring to our world. Taxes could soar as economies shrink. The many elderly could cause retirement and medical systems to collapse. Businesses will struggle to find employees, and there won't be enough young to care for the old.
That means sporadically you're going to have housing that's left desolated, you're going to have stores that are empty, you're going to have places with fewer and fewer employees, fewer customers. You're talking decimations of communities, you're talking closed schools, you're talking closed hospitals.
A nation needs an average fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman to keep its population from shrinking. The countries on this map in some shade of blue all fall below that replacement rate. They include 70% of the global population and almost every developed nation. The U.S. fertility rate hit a new record low last year, dropping to 1.62 births per woman, a number temporarily offset by record numbers of illegal immigrants. In his film, Shaw explains how fewer children from fewer and fewer mothers creates a cascading effect, leading to a downward spiral from which Shaw says no known civilization has ever recovered.
This thing is going to be like a snowball rolling downhill. It's just going to keep building.
Daryl Bricker is global CEO of the polling firm Ipsos Public Affairs and co-author of Empty Planet, The Shock of Global Population Decline.
The top reason for people not having children is they just don't want them. That's the main reason people are not having children. The second reason tends to be related to their ability to have children, whether it's the relationship that they're in, or the personal circumstances they find themselves in, or their physical ability to have children.
Shaw calls it unplanned childlessness linked to delayed parenthood.
People trying or wanting to start families well into their 30s, when frankly, biology isn't going to help necessarily. Biological challenges start around that time, but there's a bigger problem. Often people looking to start families in their 30s aren't in stable relationships. They've gone through a breakup, they don't have a partner, their partner's not on the right page at the right time. It doesn't get easier to find that magical moment.
Government incentive programs to encourage larger families have seen only limited success. Shaw warns that nations with the lowest fertility rates could see their populations cut in half in as few as 2 generations. Most of our lives, we've been told how the world faces dangerous overpopulation.
If the present trends continue, our cities are going to be choked with people. They're going to be choked with traffic. They're going to be choked with crime. They're going to be choked with pollution. And they will be impossible places in which to live, and the explosions will be.
Sounds like New York. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and detoxify your body with zeolite. You can take this every day. You just take a few drops underneath your tongue and swallow it with filtered water. It helps to remove heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals, including forever chemicals. All right? How does it work? It is a negatively charged molecule, right, that attaches to positively charged toxins and chemicals and heavy metals, and it allows you to urinate that out in 6 to 8 hours. So you can detox throughout the whole year, or you can just do a detoxification for your body once or twice a year, right? And just use the full bottle once or twice a year. Some people do it that way. Other people take it every day. Take 1 or 2 drops every day. It's up to you. But it's important to get those toxins out of our body. How do we get the toxins in our body? We have chemtrails, we have pesticides, we're breathing in chemicals from our environment, we're ingesting them through our food and drinking them through our water. Forever chemicals in packages, and packaging, and in our clothing. So, like repellent, like water repellent clothing has forever chemicals on it. Some cooking ware has forever chemicals on it. So that's how it gets into your body. But you can get it out, but it takes time. And you need to do 2 things. You need to stop being exposed to those chemicals and toxins to the best of your ability. And that means be cognizant of where you put your cleaning supplies, be cognizant of what type of material you're wearing, what type of cooking ware you use, filter your water, make sure that you stop eating processed foods and eat more organic, and eat more healthier, and detoxify your body. And one way to detoxify your body is to use the zeolite. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and detoxify your body from heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. And these forever chemicals, these PFAS chemicals, all right? It can be done, but you have to stop the exposure and then detoxify your body. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the zeolite and try to mitigate the crazy crap that Bill Gates is doing by trying to do geoengineering and spraying our planet with poison. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take zeolite. See, I give you solutions, all right? I don't just give you, doom and gloom, all right? I give you solutions. It's stuff that I do, all right? So it's up to you. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get C60. C60 is a very strong, potent antioxidant that is synergistic with the other antioxidants that I have mentioned today. This one is extra virgin olive oil. I also have it in avocado oil or in MCT coconut oil, all right? C60 is a molecule that looks like a soccer ball. It's 60 carbons, soaks up free radicals, and because it has 60 carbons, it's able to recharge and soak up more free radicals than, let's say, vitamin C or even resveratrol. But C60 is synergistic with ubiquinol, right? And NAC and resveratrol. Because what happens is that when you attack different ways to soak up free radicals, your cells can neutralize those free radicals more efficiently. All right. C60 though is very potent. All right. Take a teaspoon a day. Take a teaspoon a day. Soak up those free radicals, and you're going to notice that you're aging slower over time. You'll notice that in a year, you'll see a big change in slowing down the aging process. You're going to have more energy because it's going to boost up your mitochondrial health. So you're going to make more ATP. And by reducing the stress on your cells, the tissue is going to perform better. The specialization of that tissue is going to perform better. Like, for example, you can improve your basal layer for your skin by taking C60. That means your skin health is improving. I'll give you an example for hepatic cells, the liver cells. By taking C60, you're improving the hepatic cells by reducing the oxidation stress from free radicals. So you can, over time, improve organ systems and tissues. So that means that your body is functioning properly and better. And you're slowing down the aging process. And when you have more energy and you have less stress on your immune cells, oxidized stress on your immune cells, what happens is your immune system is boosted up. And you're reducing that chronic inflamed process that brings down your cells. To improve cardiovascular health, you want to mitigate oxidizing LDL. Well, if you bring down your LDL levels, you have less to oxidize. If you soak up free radicals, it's harder to oxidize LDL. That means that you have less plaque buildup. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and soak up those free radicals with the C60. All right, I have it in extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and MCT coconut oil. I have it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce configuration. This is really important to take a teaspoon a day, every day, so you improve your health, boost up your immune system, improve your cardiovascular system, and slow down the aging process. It works. Go to my store and follow what I'm doing. You know, the best way to teach people how to improve their health is be an example. All right. I do what I recommend you to do. Follow my lead and you will be better off. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. Let's go back to as the world turns.
It works. So people stopped having enough children. And now this widening birth gap could be the most important social and political event in modern history.
The first message I would give to anybody is wake up. This is going to be one of the dominant issues, if not the dominant issue, through the course of the 21st century.
We've gotten used to this idea that things generally get better. But all that relies on certain things being in place. It's not like population is going to glide down to some wonderful lower number. No, exactly. But also because there's no known solution. No society's ever come out of this.
The future doesn't have to look like this. But Shaw said we've got to start talking about it. Dale Hurd, CDN News.
Thanks, Dale. Still ahead, a good news story, a Christian group working on college campuses to help young people with their emotional struggles or to find a higher purpose in their lives. We'll show you what Unite.
That's the end of my broadcast. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the products, boost up your immune system, and please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. You can follow me on X and on GETTR to make sure you get news announcements. And if you would like to help support my work, get the products, get the classes that I have posted for pulmonology and immunology. And donate if you can. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, or you can be a paid member on my Patreon channel. By donating, it helps support my work so I can make sure that my videos are for free for everybody. Thank you for listening. Please share the links. Please ask your social media to follow me. I need your help. Thank you for listening and have a nice day. And by the way, the world is going to hell.